you should start your own business. So we joined forces 4 years ago and we're in 118 countries now. I had a bit of imposter syndrome where I was like, why do people care what I say?
Today's guest is Jacqui Kingswell. Drawing from her background as a professional dancer, Jacqui brings a unique and holistic approach to Pilates, blending strength and movement seamlessly. She's a mom, instructor, and co-founder of the Pilates Class, inspiring thousands on the mat every day.
When I'm at work, I feel guilty for not being present as a mother. When I'm a mother, I feel guilty that I'm not working on my businesses. We have to be okay with just not having it all perfectly balanced at once. You go to school, you go to university, you study, you get a job, and then that's your life. I never was on that path. I didn't finish school.
Was doing like an online platform ever something that was on your radar?
Definitely not. I was training my business partner, Natasha Oakley. We went into lockdown. She said to me, I don't think that your online classes are going to be the same. She did my class online, called me afterwards and said,
how would your life be different if you didn't start the Pilates class?
I mean, honestly,
Hey Balancers, welcome to another episode of the Balance Theory podcast. I'm coming to you today from the I Want It Yesterday studios in Sydney, Australia, 4-hour Australian tour. And today's guest is a beautiful soul, I can tell already. So I'm really excited to chat to her about life, your mindset, and everything in between. So Jacqui Kingswell, a warm welcome to the Balance Theory.
thank you so much for having me. That was a beautiful intro.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm excited to chat to you. We were just speaking briefly about the start of the Pilates class. So could you just share a little bit about what inspired you to start the business?
So the business started in COVID. And previously I was a professional dancer for 9 years, and then I moved into teaching Pilates. And at the time I was training my business partner, Natasha Oakley, and we went into lockdown. I wasn't able to train her, and she said to me, I don't think that your online classes are going to be the same. And I said, just give it a go, see how you go. And then she did my class online, called me afterwards and said, that was unbelievable. It was like you were there with me in the room. You should start your own business. And so overnight I set up a Squarespace. I started training people online, and 2 weeks went by and she was sort of watching the members come in, and she called me and said, I really want to, join forces with you. I think this could be amazing. So we joined forces. We sat at my kitchen bench for a month, just rebranding, doing our business plan, and then we launched the Pilates class. So it was 4 years ago, and we're in 118 countries now.
Amazing.
We've got members from all over the world. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think so many of us COVID was a tough time and lockdown was horrible, and I hope it never happens again. But
Yeah.
there are certain things that came out of it that maybe would never have happened. Like my podcast is a prime example of that. Was doing like an online platform ever something that was on your radar?
Definitely not.
So it was a true COVID baby
Yeah,
business.
it was definitely like right time, right place for us. And I know it was such an awful thing to happen globally. And we were one of the lucky ones that, got something good out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So you've had it for 4 years now. What's been the most challenging part about growing it from, being in Sydney, Australia to 118 countries? Like talk to us about that growth scale.
So I think in the early stages, once you start a business, as you know, with your podcast, it's your baby. You are so invested in it, and you do have to be that way when you first start a business. And those early days, they were so beautiful, but they were really hardcore. Like we were working 14 hours every single day. I was living, breathing, sleeping the Pilates class. I would go to bed thinking about it. I would dream about it. I would wake up thinking about it.
Working in your sleep, that's efficient.
Yeah, I seriously was. And so for me, because I am all about having a holistic approach to my lifestyle, everything on the Pilates classes reflects what I embody. And so at that time, I really wasn't embodying that practice. It was just all work, no balance. That was really hard because I definitely got to a point where I did burn out. And that's when I needed to reassess and, give myself some balance.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought this up. So one of the reasons I started the show and one of the reasons I'm so personally interested in balance is because I'm a very ambitious person, but I also have this very holistic approach to my life. So I don't live in the extremes, but I had this preconceived idea that if you want to achieve something big, if you want to start something, you kind of have to throw yourself all in and forget about everything else. What I realized slowly and what's kind of come to be the balance theory is you have these key areas in your life, your health, your relationships, and then your fulfillment. And I really steered away from calling the third one work because I had a lot of issues with the work-life balance kind of approach.
Yeah.
And what I realized was if I found a way to just sustain each of these areas, which let's call them garden beds, that's what I like to use the analogy as.
Nice.
If you neglect any garden at any given time, it's going to wilt and die. Right. So for me, the question was always, what are the bare essentials I need to keep this garden bed alive? And the reason I like talking about them as gardens as well is because there's a seasonality element in gardens. You have your winter fruit and veg, you got your summer flowers. And so it might be that at one moment in time, your fulfillment or your work needs more of your attention.
Yeah.
But the question I always come back to is, that's fine, I can do the 12-hour days, but what are the things in my relationships and my health that I need to keep me going? Because I've found in the past, like quite similarly to you, when I go all in on one, that's when I get to burnout.
Yeah.
Because these other two areas, like I think sometimes we'll look at, I can't make it to the gym, like I'm working so much, or I can't do that half an hour Pilates class, without respecting the fact that that actually is a value add to our energy. It's going to help us show up the way we want to rather than take away from our time. So I'm glad you brought this up because, you and I are not alone in that experience of burnout.
Yeah.
When you kind of reflect now, and we also can't ignore, like when you're getting a business off the ground, it's intense, like especially when you're scaling from 0 to 118 countries, like that's a massive achievement. But when you look now, how would you describe kind of your balance? Like, do you feel that with this large, like successful, thriving business, like you've been able to kind of recalibrate, or do you still have moments where you find the balance is a bit off whack? Like, how do you kind of navigate that?
I think what you said was beautiful, by the way. I love that analogy. And I think you said it perfectly because you have all these garden beds and sometimes your chives need a little more watering than your rosemary.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what your balance is like. Sometimes you're killing it at work and then your personal life is not so much thriving. And it's okay, I think, to not have everything balanced at the same time. It's going to be a little wavy, and I think that that's just, we have to be okay with just not having it all perfectly balanced at once. For me, balance looks different at different stages of my life. When I was really stressed, it took me a little while to figure out that I was going into burnout until I got to that burnout phase. And so when I get to that, I check in with myself and I need to schedule in more downtime. When I'm eating indulgent foods, if I'm away, I really enjoy that. But I know that when I'm home, I have to balance it out by eating a clean diet and getting back into a routine. If I'm not exercising, it's the same in all aspects of my life. You just have to tune in and figure out what serves you every single day. You don't have to do it perfectly every single day, but there just needs to be a daily and weekly check-in of what aspects in your life need a little more water.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that you're playing on the analogy because it does, like, I find talking about it as gardens does work really well. And back to kind of what I was saying before, like the reason I had such an issue with work-life balance as the conversation around balance is, for me, it felt like I was trying to make them 50-50 all the time.
Yeah.
And realistically, like most of us spend most of our week at work.
Yeah.
And, to say that you want to spend the same amount of time at work as you do for your health and for your relationships, like it's not always.
It's not realistic.
Yes. And it's also not about the quantity all the time. It's really more about the quality. Like I could do a 30 minutes Pilates class and then spend 12 hours working.
Yeah.
That's not an equal balance, like from a time point of view, but from a quality point of view and the energy I get, it very well could be.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a daily, weekly check-in, what does that look like for you? Are you literally sitting down and like journaling? Are you asking yourself questions? Are you just reflecting? Like, what does that look like for you?
So for me, I think when I get on the mat, it's a time that signifies a meditative state where I can just check in with myself. Mm-hmm. So when I hit the mat, I do tune into how my body's feeling and how my mind's feeling. Really, before I even select a class, that's what I'm doing, and that determines which class I'm going to go for.
Nice.
So if I'm feeling like my mind is really busy, I might go for a more restorative grounding class. If I'm feeling really energetic, then I'll go for more of a HIIT, high intensity workout. So every day I am checking in with myself, and I don't always serve myself every single day, but I know by the end of the week and when it gets to the weekend, if I've had a really busy week, I'm switching off my phone. I have days where I don't go on social media, and I just really restore myself with going for a nice walk with family, swim in the ocean, doing a workout, eating clean foods that make me feel good, spending time with loved ones, going to bed early, having a bath, all of those nice things.
You sound like me.
Yeah.
I think like it's nice to hear, because honestly, like so many guests talk about these basics, right? Your hydration, your food, your sleep, your movement. And it might sound like a broken record with so many people saying the same thing, but
it's simple, but
it works.
Yeah. And you do need the reminders too.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And what I love about all these things is they're free and you can start them after this podcast. You know, everyone knows what is important, but it's like, I think it's more that reminder, like when you feel off, to check in and be like, what am I missing? For me personally, it's when I get slack with my meditation. Yeah. I'll go through like a week where, I don't know, just forget to do it, or I'm just not as habitual as I normally am because I'm traveling or whatever. And when I check in with myself, I'm like, oh, it's because I haven't done my 10-minute meditation this week. And it's crazy, like when you just add it back in, you know, so anyone listening who's feeling a bit off, just think about like what are those bare essentials that you're missing out on.
I think for humans, we are conditioned now to everything is quite instant for us. And so until we see a burnout, which might be, you know, not sleeping at nighttime, or maybe if it's we've gained a lot of weight because we are not eating and sticking to a nice fitness routine, it's when we get to those moments, then the change starts to happen. But it's really all about having a sustainable routine that you can do every single day so that you can continue to feel your best every day.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of women, like we talk about having it all, whether you're told you can't have it all, whether you're trying to have it all. Do you think that women can have it all?
I think that you definitely need to, it's a compromise. Yeah, you definitely have to compromise when you are a working mum, for sure. You know, that's something I'm working on at the moment. I'm a mum. I am running 2 businesses and it's busy. When I'm at work, I feel guilty for not being present as a mother. When I'm a mother, I feel guilty that I'm not working on my businesses. So I think that you can do it all, but I don't think that it's going to be perfect and running smoothly in all aspects of your life. There's days where I'm absolutely thriving at work and then I'm a mess as a mother, and then it changes. And so I think just being realistic and understanding what your priorities are. Is your priority working? Is it being a family woman? Is it, you know, being social? Like, what are your priorities? And then figure that out. Attend to, you know, what's on the top of your list, and then also just be okay with if you're attending to that, whatever is on the top of your list, if number 2 and 3 aren't thriving as much, it's okay. Yeah. I think it's just okay to not be juggling 10 balls in the air at the same time. You might be juggling 1 and 9 of them are on the floor, and that's okay. You'll pick them up the next day and try and get 2. But yeah, you can definitely give it a go and try and do as much as you can, as much as like that makes you happy, like not for what you think society defines as having it all. Like, what is having it all?
Yeah.
Is it having a career? Is it being a mother? Is it being, having a social life? Like, it's different for everybody. So just asking yourself, what does having it all mean for me? And then what are my priorities within that?
Yeah, 100%. You actually took the phrase out of my mouth. I think that starting point of, if you want to have it all, what does that actually look like for you is the most important thing, because, you've wanted to start the Pilates class and run that, and you also want to be a mother. And so naturally that's going to come with moments of compromise, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that that's what you want, and that lifestyle is going to bring those moments of, surviving and thriving at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, that's important, because at least you're clear on what it is you're trying to do. I think that serves as a very important piece to not, guilt can be a really consuming feeling, right? You can get really stuck there, and that can just consume you and really control like how you do things. But if you have that clear vision of, okay, what is having it all for me? Is it having a healthy fitness routine, plus for me, my podcast, and then being able to do some legal consulting?
Yeah.
Okay, some days that's going to mean that, because I don't have a sustainable 9 to 5. It might mean I'm not making money today, but I make money tomorrow, and when you kind of paint that picture of, okay, what does that mean for me personally, not what I see online as this could be a great lifestyle for me, then you become a little bit more okay, I think, with the compromise. But I'm glad we're having this conversation, because it's never about not having to compromise. Like, I don't want anyone to ever listen to the podcast and think about their gardens and think they're never going to have to compromise. I think it's having your priorities front and center, and then moving with the ebbs and flows of life, because any approach that tries to be too rigid will actually not let you account for life.
Never. And I think that, social media glorifies the best of people's lives, which is amazing. And social media is a wonderful tool as well. But you can also go down the rabbit hole of comparing yourself. And I always say comparison is the thief of joy. And so be intentional with who you follow, what you listen to, what information you take on board, and really just spend time with yourself to get to know you, what you want, what your values are, without comparing to what you think you should be doing or what having it all looks like for somebody else.
Yeah.
Just really be confident with knowing that your choices are what's right for you.
Yeah. And I think like our intuition as well is so important. Like I remember having an experience where I thought doing something was what I wanted. In fact, it was becoming a lawyer, right? And working in a law firm. But, I studied for 6 years to do that. I ended up in a law firm, and it just felt like there was more that I wasn't being allowed to do in that role. I felt quite limited. And that's a very uncomfortable moment when you've kind of glorified and worked towards something, or you've seen someone else do it and you've tried it.
Yeah.
But don't discount like your intuition and how you feel, because it's always guiding you. It's like that antenna to just let you know like something's a little off, and you might need to change course.
Well, you're great at this. This is your calling.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad I kind of, the one thing I asked myself was, what's missing from this job as a lawyer that I want more of? Like, what am I not getting? And it was the person-to-person connection.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this podcast was born. So I think always leaning into where you feel you fit or you don't fit is really important for you to find your own path in a path that may already have been laid. Like, when you grow up, you think you're going to go to uni, get a job, and then buy a house, have kids. Like it kind of feels like the path is laid. But if you're walking that path and it doesn't feel right for you, I think having the courage to lean into your intuition and go off on a little tangent, like that's what makes you,
Absolutely.
and sets you apart.
Yeah.
But what you just said before as well about like people you follow, that phrase that you're the sum of the 5 people around you. Mm-hmm. I actually don't limit that to the 5 physical people around you, but I would say if there's like creators you follow and listen to all the time, they could make it in your top 5. And so being really careful like what you're consuming, whether it's TV reality shows or people online or YouTube podcasts, like people in your top 5, you can curate that quite considerately, but also you got to be really mindful of who you're just popping up on your screen.
Yeah, I think it's important to ask yourself, like, why are you following these people? Who are your role models? And do they inspire you? Do they make you feel good? And if they do, great.
And if not, unfollow. But don't do what I did. I did a bit of a Instagram detox a few weeks ago and
Yeah.
I went on like a bit of a spree. You know, like I'm like, oh, I haven't done this since I literally started my account.
Yeah.
And I got banned from like unfollowing like too many accounts. It was like, this is spam, bot behavior.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so I got like shadow banned for a week or something. So don't
You
do
got
that.
to cross
Do it in
against
bits.
your name for a little
Something
while.
like that.
One of my favorite ways to nourish my body from the inside out, support my energy, immunity, and gut health is through having bone broth every week. Now, I used to make this religiously every single weekend, but between running my legal consulting business, this podcast, preparing to be a mum, finding from 8 to 24, sometimes 48 hours every single weekend to make myself a weekly bone broth has become a little bit unrealistic. That's why I'm so grateful that I found the Nutra Organics bone broth range. They offer both powders and concentrates from paleo and vegan-friendly options, all made with the highest quality Australian grass-fed beef bones and certified organic pasture-raised chicken bones. They're packed with all the immune and gut-supporting benefits of a slow simmering broth, just minus the time commitment. And honestly, they taste amazing. I typically like to sip a little bit first thing in the morning. Otherwise, I just add a teaspoon into some plain rice for a bit more flavor, or my curries or my soups for an instant gut loving and immunity boosting hit. If you're looking for a trusted and time saving way to start nourishing yourself from the inside out, the Nutra Organics bone broth range is honestly a game changer. And right now you can get 15% off. Head to nutraorganics.com.au. The link is also in the show notes, and use the code The Balance Theory at checkout. Let's get back into today's episode.
One thing I always think about and try and navigate myself is being in the present moment, but also thinking about my future and like setting these ambitious goals. Is this something you struggle with? Like, I find sometimes when I'm thinking too ahead in the future, it pulls me out of the present moment. And that's something I really try and work on being there.
I'm terrible for this.
Tell me more.
I'm very goal driven. What's the next thing? Okay, I've got to do this. I've got to plan. My husband's always like, Jacqui, you just need to chill out. And I'm trying, that's something I'm working on at the moment, is just trying to, I meditate, and when I can be in the present moment. Like right now I'm here with you. I'm not thinking about all the things I have to do. But the second that I leave this interview,
The mind starts.
thinking of the
I know.
next thing.
I
But
know.
honestly, I actually like that side of me. I like that I'm driven and that I have goals. It doesn't stress me out. It's serving me. So I'm okay with it. My husband might not be sometimes, but you know.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
get that. It's definitely not a bad thing, right? I think
Yeah.
those are the people who are most driven. Like, they're the people who make big strides, who achieve amazing things. But I find they're also the people that struggle to sometimes just be. And
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. And the reason I just wanted to ask you is I find an emotion I feel a lot because of this is impatience.
Yeah.
Is that something you feel a lot too?
Yeah, I can be a little impatient at times. Enjoying the ride is really important because we just all have one life, and it's easier said than done, but moments come and then they go. And that's what you learn when you meditate. Your mind it's like the clouds. They come and they go, and you've got the sun behind and it's always there, but the clouds are just passing. And that's what life is. These moments, they come and they go. So it is really important to enjoy what's in front of you and try and soak up as much of it as you can. When you're a mum, you really learn that more than ever,
imagine.
because it goes so quickly and you just never get those moments back again. So that's something that I've really enjoyed, is being present with my daughter and just life in general. So yeah, I think it's fine to have goals and to be driven, but it is important to try and enjoy the ride, because the ride is beautiful. The destination itself, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's the journey, you know, everybody always says that, but it's true.
Yeah. And I think, like, for anyone listening, potentially resonating with this, if you think of anything you've achieved, right? A launch, a milestone, it's amazing, but then the next day comes, you know, and that's not to say it's not important or it's not significant, but I feel when we're talking about goals and moments, it's almost like this consuming, life-changing experience when it's just another beautiful moment in your life.
Yeah.
And so finding ways to appreciate all the other moments that lead up to that has been a really important thing for me to anchor myself. And my husband's actually the opposite to me in a lot of ways, but he's helped me anchor this way. So when my YouTube kind of started picking up and growing, he said, we're going to pick 4 milestones.
Yeah.
And for each, we've broken down my big goal into 4 milestones. And for each of those, we're going to celebrate, because we're going to celebrate the moments along the way that get you to the goal you want, rather than just wait for the goal, because then you're just going to set another goal and you're just going to skim over it.
That's so nice.
You're not going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I think in goal setting now, like one big thing I do is break down the big goal and celebrate kind of the chapters along the way. Because when you think about it, that's like life is just a string of moments. It's not just this one moment that everything comes to, because then you're just going to set another goal. Like, especially if you're quite driven, you're not just going to be like, cool, I opened in 120 countries, now I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like, what's next? What can we do better? What can we change? So finding ways to kind of appreciate along the way, that's been something that's really helped me.
Yeah, I'm trying to find more joy and happiness in my day-to-day life. And I think we do a good job at the Pilates class, my business partner and I. We really do try and have fun along the way, because what's the point? You can be so driven and so focused and disciplined, but it's not that fun. So you want to be bringing some joy into your life, because those are things you're going to remember when it all passes.
Yeah, 100%. In this process of you, in the last 4 years, I'd say you've had a lot of growth in your life, becoming a mum, starting a business. Like, there's been a lot of transformation.
Yeah.
In this process, have you come up against any limiting beliefs that you maybe weren't aware were there before? Any self-doubt, things you really didn't realize about yourself until you threw yourself in this space?
I mean, honestly, public speaking is just not something that I enjoy doing at all. I was a dancer, so I didn't have to speak. I was a performer. I was moving with my body. And when I started the Pilates class, I had to be the face of the brand. You have to represent the brand. People want to hear your voice. They want to know who you are. And that was something I definitely had to figure out how to navigate, because I had a bit of imposter syndrome where I was like, why do people care what I say? Or, why are they even listening? Like, I felt confident with my classes and what I was teaching in a Pilates environment. But outside of that, I struggled with, understanding or being confident with just speaking and putting yourself forward.
I always reflect on how businesses today can't actually get away from content creation. Like, it's such an integral part of marketing in today. Like, I don't know if there's any business that can't thrive by having online content. And I think this is actually a pain point for a lot of business owners, that they're not used to coming on camera. I mean, people might watch the podcast now, but man, the first one I did sucked. Like, I hated hearing my own voice. Like,
you got my intro in one take.
Oh, yeah, but
that was impressive.
Thank you. I'm 4 years in though, right? So I think, like, for a lot of people, this is a pain point, like not liking being on camera. It's like we could be having a normal conversation and then the camera goes on and you're all of a sudden like frozen, right? Yeah. How did you? Because I mean, you seem like a natural sitting here with me now. I mean, this isn't really public speaking, but it's a different skill. How did you kind of work through that? Because it looks like you're doing a great job at it now.
Thank you. I think just building confidence with who you are, it's a process. It's something that I'm still doing, but just not worrying too much what everybody thinks of you. It's so easy. It's easier said than done. But yeah, I think if you worry too much about, oh, what if this person thinks that, and what if I say the wrong thing, you just live a very closed life. You have to just be open and make mistakes. I always say it's better in a Pilates class if you sort of lift your leg and you fall over, because then you know where your limits are. So always go past that point. And that's what I'm embracing in all aspects of my life. I'm just giving it a go. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to say things that I'm sure I might listen back to and think, oh gosh, if I thought about that, maybe I wouldn't have said it, but that's okay. It just comes and goes. So just taking a more relaxed, fun approach to everything.
Yeah.
And just giving it a go, because it's better to do it than not.
Yeah. You don't want to be living with regret that you did or didn't do things.
Yeah. And what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah. I always say you're either going to be in the same, if not better position, like more in the context to ask somebody for help or fear of someone saying no to you. Like you're literally only going to be in the same position. If not, you're going to have a yes. So there's no harm in kind of just trying it out.
Yeah, I think fear definitely holds us back. And when you can understand where that fear is coming from, what it's doing, sort of befriend it, then just take it with you, have it here, but then, just continue on.
Yeah, that's actually a very important thing you've just raised and something I love talking about. So I think when people experience that fear and they want to try something new or they want to, push their leg a little bit further and see what their limits are, they think that fear means that they're not ready, right? And so I think you've got two types of people. Both experience fear. One group will take action in spite of that fear. Like you said, they'll take the fear on the journey with them. The other group will be waiting for the fear to dissipate before they even take the first step. And they'll be waiting a very long time. Yeah. And they'll also be looking at these people and thinking, oh, they're not, they're fearless. They've got no fear. But the truth is I feel, and maybe you can weigh in on your experience too, like whenever you push yourself out of your comfort zone, you're going to feel that fear by virtue of just being out of your comfort zone, right? It's uncomfortable. It's something new. You've never done it before. How are you supposed to know what to do? Like that fear is a human protective mechanism to say like, hey, you could be in danger because you've not done this before. It's not familiar. But in modern society, it no longer means there's a tiger standing in front of you or you could die if you go down that path. It means, oh, you might say something wrong or like embarrass yourself.
It's shameful or exactly.
It's all these stories we've told ourselves. Have you kind of had to work through any stories or narratives you had from childhood or like when you grew up about what you thought you should or shouldn't be, or like beliefs that have just kind of weighed you down? That?
Oh, good question. Growing up, I always wanted to dance. And like you said earlier, we live in a society that's you go to school, you go to university, you study, you get a job, and then that's your life. I never was on that path. I didn't finish school. So I was always wanting to just dance. That was my path. That was my career. And I, from an early age, was very comfortable with taking a different path. One thing, because I didn't actually finish school, I wasn't super academic. I was very focused on being a dancer. I trained full-time as a dancer, and that was my studies. And so I didn't finish school. I wasn't really focused on my studies. Therefore, I didn't consider myself as an academic person. I guess that's definitely changed over the years because it looks so different for everybody. And yeah, I think that's something that I don't consider to be at all.
Yeah. Do you think that traditional trajectory for people to go through, because you kind of took a different path, did you feel like when you went to start a business, did you feel that limiting belief come up in any way? Like you said, you experienced a bit of imposter syndrome. Do you think it's related to that thought you may have had because you didn't take the traditional path, or was it just because you hadn't done a business before? Or can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think it was just I'd never started a business before. I was really lucky because I have such an amazing business partner who has taught me so much. I always joke and say that she taught me 6 years of business within 6 months.
Amazing.
It was a very fast crash course. There was a lot to digest, but she really saw something within me, and that was a turning point for me to have somebody who really believed in me and who saw the potential that was, she was like, you can totally do this. You can be the face of the brand. You can go on podcasts. You can be on television and, speak for the brand. You can do whatever you want, basically. She believed in me. And so that really was a good encouragement to then have myself believe in me as well.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's always nice when someone so close to you actually brings that out of you, whether it's your partner, business partner, friend. Like that's a really beautiful thing to have gone through. How would your life be different if you didn't start the Pilates class?
Ooh. Well, I had 10 businesses before this that I had tried to start and they didn't work for
What were some of them?
So I had a studio that I was about to open right before COVID. had the lease signed. I was opening my own Pilates studio, and then obviously COVID happened. That didn't go through.
If we go back to, I interrupted you to ask you what types of businesses there were. So how would your life be different if you?
Oh yes, if I didn't start the Pilates class. Good question. I've never really thought about that. I know I would definitely be doing something. I'm the type of person where I would have created something. I think I would still be doing fitness and I would still be teaching and doing Pilates because that was my passion. So I actually don't know. It's a good question. I'll have to think about it.
You would have found something.
I would have found something. Wherever I am in my life, I feel very fulfilled. When I was 25, if you asked me, where would you want to be right now? It was in that moment. Right now, this is where I want to be.
That's so nice. So you've never had the experience of like being in a job you don't like?
I've definitely done jobs that are not fulfilling, but there's always something to take from a job. There's always something, as long as I'm learning, I'm a step ahead. And that's good. If I can learn, make a friend, it's a positive. You can always take something positive with, with what you're doing. My job, I guess, it's different to, a lot of people who are in a 9-to-5 who are locked in to a career. As a dancer, your jobs were coming in at all different aspects. They were, a week long, they were a day long, they were, a couple of months long. So it was very different. So whatever I was doing, I guess I knew it wasn't going to last forever. But yeah, I always just found something positive within what I'm doing.
I think that's actually a really nice reframe for anyone listening. I mean, I've had a lot of people on we talk about corporate culture and people get really stuck there and they don't like what they're doing. But if you're learning and growing and you can make friends, like finding what you care about within a role, knowing it's not forever, like, you don't have to stay in a job. You can look for something else. You can completely pivot.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to just kind of give you a different lens to like appreciate the current experience.
Yeah.
Because I've been in that moment where I don't like it and it becomes super negative and it's like that's the frame that I'm viewing life.
But I think everything that you're doing gets you to your future self. You may not know it at the time, but all of those struggles and the mud, the mud that you're into, the sticky moments that are all messy, they're really important for growth.
Yeah.
I always say, like, if I'm not in mud in my life, I'm not grounding myself. The flower is not then going to flourish. Like I like to be challenged and in places in my life where it's not just all perfect and I'm just completely happy, because then I'm like, oh, something's going to go wrong. I like to feel that something isn't quite right and then I'm working towards something.
That's a really interesting perspective, and I guess it's quite helpful for you because that's life, right? Like there's chaos everywhere. Like we said, you can be surviving and thriving all at once. What's been the last stickiest or like most challenging moment you've been in? Maybe we can talk about it in the business.
I think my most recent would be balancing work life and mum life. That's been really tricky to sort of navigate how to manage both of them. So I'm just trying to find a balance at the moment on how to do both.
Yeah.
But I'm figuring it out in my own way.
Yeah.
But it is hard. Like you definitely have the guilt of, like I said earlier, not being, sort of thriving at both of them at the same time. But it's just a new reality that you just have to befriend and be okay with.
Yeah. And another thing as well, like with balance, it's not just that it looks different from me to you. It actually looks different for you at different moments in life. So, it could just be that you've started this new chapter with mum and business owner in the works and you're finding your feet with that.
Yeah.
What would be like the ideal day in your life? Like right now as a business owner and as a mum, can you foresee like a perfect day that would make you feel equally fulfilled in both?
Oh goodness, I find really positive moments in every day that I have. Like today, I wake up, I spend time with my daughter. I'm now here doing a podcast. I'm going to work for the afternoon and then I'm finishing and I'm just going to be present with my daughter. I think when I just being able to do that really makes me happy. Like, I'm so grateful that I can have a business that I love and I get to be a mum. There's no perfect day, but every day I just try my best in whatever's in front of me, and I just try and make the most of it. That's all you can do.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like, you can still have the perfect day and the perfect routine, and then life just happens, you know.
Yeah.
But I was just curious because, you know, you're saying you're trying to work on the balance between the two. So, like, have there been moments where, for example, like, business needs you more and you feel you're not? Is that kind of what you mean by?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes, especially when having your own business, it's amazing, but you never ever switch off, ever. It's like having a little baby. So from an early stage, I did take a couple of months off to just be present and to figure out life as a new mum, but then I had to go back to work quite early. So those sort of early stages, I guess I was figuring it out more to how to sort of be a mum because it was so new, and then also work on my business and be present and to, you know, have the time and energy to inspire our team, to give all my energy to the members and our classes. And you're prioritizing more now. Like, there's a lot more to juggle. So you just have to figure out how that sort of fits into your life and how all of the moving parts are going to run as smooth as they can.
Yeah. Do you have any habits or things you do around, like, time management that you find really useful, or just the way you plan your week that you can share with us?
So my week at the moment looks really different every week, but I'm very punctual.
That's great. I love punctual people.
So yes, I think I just get things done now in a timely manner because I don't have time to overthink it. So if I have a task, I'm very prepared. So preparation is key. I think if you can prepare for whatever is ahead of you, and then when you come to your task, whatever that is, I think just really apply yourself by trying to be present in that moment, not worrying about what's next. Do the best job that you can with that task, apply yourself, and then move on to the next.
Yeah, definitely being organized. I mean, I think there's, like, different types of people. I think there's the people who work really well under pressure last minute. That's like some of my siblings. That's
my
like
husband.
That. Yeah, doing, like, the all-nighters.
Yeah.
That's definitely not me. I'm, like, the other type of person who's like very organized and prepared. Like, I'll submit the assignment like 3 days before it's due.
Me too.
So I think, like, you know, working out where you sit and then what kind of strategies help you best prepare. Because I was talking to someone the other day who's more on the last minute under pressure, and they're like, I really want to be more organized and, like, more prepared. Do you think there's just generally two different types of personalities and they can't force the other way?
Yeah. My husband thrives with the way that he works.
With
chaos. No, we operate differently, and that's coming back to not comparing yourself. Like, why do you have to be organized and prepared and submit 3 days before? Is it because you're stressed? Well, if it's not serving you in your life and you're stressed, sure, change it. But if you're happy with it, you don't need to change it. Just tune in and ask yourself, like, why do I want to change this about myself? Is there something that you're not liking about it? Okay, well, let's dive into that and see why you're not liking it, and then change it. But if it's working for you, just be confident with what you're doing, stay in your own lane and keep going.
Yeah, beautiful. To finish our chat today, do you have any books or people that have really inspired you that you would recommend our listeners check out?
Oh, good one. Honestly, with books at the moment, I'm reading fiction because it's a way for me to just escape and switch off. My business partner has an amazing book called Excessively Obsessed.
Yes, I want to read it.
It's really good. So if anyone is thinking, you know, if you're a young entrepreneur, or you're not sure if you're wanting to get into entrepreneurism, or if you're struggling within your career and you want to thrive within your role, it's really great. So I could recommend that. And honestly, for me, what helps me is spiritual books and finding a workout routine that is going to make you feel grounded.
On the spiritual books note, because I'm actually reading a lot of more like personal development, business-esque type books.
Yeah.
So I'll take a spiritual book recommendation if you've got one.
Well, who I love is a meditation teacher called Tara Brach. Have you heard of her?
No.
She's beautiful. I do a lot of her meditations. She's on the Calm app, and she has her own courses and books that she's written. They're amazing. Obviously, the more known books, The Power of Now.
Oh, I've read that
The
one.
Art of Happiness.
Yep.
You know, if you haven't even dived into those, they're great. But yeah, something that I turn to is often anything by Tara Brach.
Okay, I'll check her out. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming into the guest seat today and chatting with me and talking about, you know, life and your thoughts and your experiences. It's been really nice getting to know you, and I'll put links to all your Instagram and the platform in the show notes so people can check it out. But I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, my pleasure.